Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our Evolve 365 Microsoft Tips and Tricks session today. We wanted to start this weekly series to give you some simple and easy tips that anyone can go back to their desk and quickly implement. We know your time is valuable, so we strive to keep sessions to no more than 30 minutes, sometimes even less. We also push the topics out monthly, so you only have to sign up once for the monthly series instead of 4 or 5 times. And if you ever miss a session, you can always find the recordings on our Planet Technologies YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Planet Technologies. So a little about myself. I'm your host, Tanya Kaiser. I have more than 15 years experience with project management across multiple industries, including technology, legal, nonprofit, and construction. I'm also a longtime Microsoft geek and a big SharePoint nerd, and one of the things that I enjoy the most is helping others learn new skills, whether it's with an application they've used for quite a while, like Word today, or something completely different like SharePoint. If you ever have any questions after a session, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn or send me an email. So a little about Planet. Planet has been providing expert support in the Microsoft world for over 18 years. We offer full services for the entire Microsoft Cloud and Productivity Suite, including advisory, deployment, and training services, mobile application development and solutions, and strategic business consulting, including technology, compliance, and security guidance. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off, and this week we're going to take a look at some tools in Word. Specifically, we're going to talk about how you can build out a table of contents in Word. I'm going to cover the basics, and then I'm going to show you a couple of advanced features just so you're aware of them, but we're not going to dive too deep into them. So Word's been around for quite a while. Table of contents have been around for quite a while. There's been a lot of growth in Word, specifically around table of contents. So if you used, 2000 or 2003, even Word 2007, the automated built-in table of contents tools were a little clunky. So I would say you definitely want to use a table of contents. It really helps to organize your documents, and it also makes it easier for your users to consume them. So whether it's something that they're working on a project and they need to add content to a document, or it's just something that they need to be given and read, whether it's an employee handbook, a documentation for a project, whatever the case may be, having a table of contents just makes it easier to consume, whether it's in hard copy or soft copy. The great thing about using the built-in table of contents tools is if you do create a PDF of that document, either with the built-in native PDF or the full-blown Adobe Acrobat product, those TOCs will almost always turn into an automatic hyperlink. So now you've got a soft copy of a document that they don't even have to click through the pages. They can click a link in the table of contents and automatically jump to that page. And that alone is a reason to use them. The next question, especially for people who remember how painful it could be working with those built-in automated tools, is it a lot of work? And it really has come a long way in improving all of their built-in automated tools, and I think it's easier than ever to create a table of contents. Now, if you need additional training, of course this is always the popular "it depends" answer. I would say for the average information worker, somebody who's just coming in and working in Word, you really shouldn't need any additional training. You just need to point out where the buttons are on the ribbon, and then you're good to go. Now, if you want to do some of the more advanced table of contents creation and modifications that we're going to talk about, then you might need a little additional training, maybe a couple of review sessions just to get familiar with those tools. Now, what are the alternatives, right? If you are still leery of using the automated features in Word because you've had bad experiences with the past, and I've been on that route as well, I've even gone so far as to use a third-party add-in, that's one of the alternatives, right? You type them in manually, and you manually go in and add and update those page numbers every time a change is made. You don't have a TOC at all in your document, or, like I said, you find a third-party tool that you feel more comfortable with. None of those are really great alternatives. Word has come a long way, and I think natively in the document, except for certain edge cases, you're going to find everything that you need to create a great table of contents, a great index directly within Word. So when you're using these built-in tools, when I say built-in, they really truly are built-in. They're living right there on the ribbon. They're not hidden. The menu buttons will do it automatically. You just have a couple of clicks. Now, they also rely on styles, which we're going to see very shortly, to generate these table of contents. Those styles are also built in. And we have done a tips and tricks session all about styles. So if you're curious about that, you can go out to our YouTube channel and watch that session in 30 minutes, come back and watch our recording on TOC, and have a great understanding of how to build out your document. So one thing to note, now that we have, Outlook Online, Outlook Mobile, Outlook on all the different apps, Word is very much the same. You're going to be doing all of your table of contents work in the full client application on your desktop or laptop. On Word Online, you're going to have a very limited menu, and you'll be able to do some things, but it's not going to even give you any choices for table of contents. So all of this is found under the reference ribbon. It used to be the insert ribbon in a few versions back with Word, but now it's all contained on the reference ribbon for the automated features. Now there are a couple of things that I personally like to do before I know I'm going to dive into a lot of table of contents work. I like to modify my quick access toolbar, which is the toolbar right at the top of Word, to add in a couple of commands that aren't on any of the ribbons that just make it easier for me to move around in a document. So we're going to go straight into our demos, and I'm going to switch over to first just show you really briefly the Word Online document. I've got a basic document here that I can pull up, and you'll just get a quick look at this ribbon before we go to the full client application. Of course, you know, we're in Word Online. If I want to edit this in the browser, I've got a nice ribbon here, and you can see on the insert I can do page breaks, I can insert a table, but there's no reference ribbon here. So anything that I can do on Word Online is going to be under insert, and you can see I can do headers and footers, page numbers, and footnotes and endnotes, but nothing about table of contents. So this is why you're really going to have to work in the full desktop application. So I've pre-staged a document here, and I'll change the view in a minute just so we can get a closer look at it. But we're going to continue this series next week when we talk about section breaks, headers, and footers. So I've got just a cover page, an area where we're going to play around with our table of contents, and then I've just got some dummy text in here to simulate a document. This document's only 12 pages long. I put a couple of pictures in there, but that's how we're going to get started. But one thing that I really like to do is come up here to this area right at the top is your quick access toolbar. And I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to say more commands. And then I'm going to change it to all commands. And there's a few buttons that I like to add when I'm working specifically with documents that have a table of contents and really large documents. So I'm going to go ahead and add the back button if I scroll up to it, and I'm just going to click over and say add. And then there's also a corresponding forward button. Now the reason I went to all commands is if you look through the different menus under this, you're not going to really find these, but you can see how many different commands are in here. Now you can modify your ribbon itself. I prefer not to modify the ribbon just because if I'm going to look at any training material and I know I've customized my actual ribbon, it's going to be different from that training material. But the quick access toolbar, I can easily add and remove things on there. So I've got a forward and back button, and the next two buttons that I want to add just to get my Word client ready are next page and previous page. So I'm going to keep scrolling. You can see there's a next item, but the one I want is next page. Now the reason that I'm adding these in is that as Word has grown through their different versions, I'm looking for previous page, there used to be a toggle button on your scroll bar, and you used to be able to have these buttons where you can specify jump to page, go forward and back, but they removed that as they simplified the ribbon. There's previous items, so I know previous page is coming right before it, and I'm going to do those. And I'm going to change that order so it makes a little more sense for me. And then I'm going to click OK. And now I've got these buttons up here, and when I switch my view to go to my 100% page width, I can easily go next page without having to scroll. And that sometimes makes it a lot easier to work through a document. Now forward and back aren't going to do anything because I don't have hyperlinks in this document yet, but we're going to put those in very, very shortly. So one way, if you're really a person who does a ton of intensive Word documents, really long documents, heavy formatting, have a lot of table of contents, have a lot of section headers, you may be used to using your hidden characters key. This is on your home ribbon, and this turns on all of your spaces. So you can see the space now between cover page. You can see that I have a paragraph mark here. This drives people crazy. You either love it or hate it. It's just a matter of how you work. So I tend to turn this on all the time because I'm used to doing a lot of power user kind of stuff in Word. So this part of the webcast may be annoying some people, but we're going to keep it on just for a short little bit. I'm going to go to my next page, and I have a space here where I want to insert my table of contents. And again, this isn't on the insert ribbon. So if you're used to going from Word Online to Word in your client, you may get confused with that insert ribbon. You can do a page break, but you can see there's actually the header and the footer and the page numbers, but there's nothing on here about that endnote and footnote reference. those are actually in a separate tab in the client called References. So there's that insert footnote, insert endnote. So again, if you're switching back and forth between Word Online and Word in the client application, you're going to have to get used to those two different menus. You can see we have a table of contents menu here, and you get a drop down, and you've got some automatic ones built in. Then you have more where you can go online and choose from some, custom, and then remove. So if I just come in here and click automatic, right away it's going to tell me that I'm creating a table of contents. I need to apply some heading styles from the style gallery to text. If I click OK, you can tell me it's saying no table of content entries found. So right away it's trying to help you, and I've got a little drop down here again, and I can click down and remove it, or I have an update table button. So this tells me that, yes, I have a document, and I'm going to go to the first page of my document, but I don't have anything showing where my table of contents are going to go. And this is where this ties in very closely to the styles. So I can go back to my home ribbon. You've got a lot of built-in styles within Word itself. So I'm just going to pick the first one, heading document. Now, anything that says a heading is going to show up in that automatic table of contents. I've got 2 right here, but I believe there's up to 9. So if I wanted to click this little corner drop down, you can see I can scroll through this, and there's a whole bunch more of them. Now, if I wanted to see the full list of every single style available, I can come down to the bottom and say Manage Styles, and then see how these are all in here, Hide Until Used. I can turn those on and add them. So you can get really deep into the styles. For our purposes today, heading 1 and heading 2 is going to be perfect. So I'm going to make heading 1. I've got a couple other pages in here. There's another one, heading 1. I'm just going to add a few so you can see what it does. And then here's one in the middle of the page. We'll add that one. We're going to go back to our home page, and then go back to table of contents. I can click in there, and I can click Update Table. And just like that, because I applied that style, it automatically updated my table of contents. It's pulling in what that style is marked as and the page number. Now, I'm not going to do anything with page numbers this week. If you come back to our session next week, we're going to take the same document, and I'll show you how you can have different page numbers for the table of contents and the body of the document, and even the cover page if wanted. So it's really that simple to come in and add a table of contents. Now, directly in here, I can click this drop down if I wanted to change the look slightly. You can see they have contents, table of contents, and then I have a manual table, and it's asking me to type in items. But those are the pre-populated styles. They're all fairly useful, really easy to use. All I had to do was come in and highlight certain parts of my text, and then I have a table of contents, and it's that simple. Now, if I continue through my document, and maybe I'm updating it, maybe I want to go back and add a little bit more, maybe I'm changing this heading, I'm going to come in, instead of just putting a placeholder text like I did for this demo document, I'm going to give it a title. And then if I scroll back to my table of contents, I can again come in here, click Update Table, and just like that, it updates the heading for me. So not only in just a matter of minutes have I inserted a table of contents, I've already updated a title, I've already updated a table of contents. It's very, very easy to work with. Now, if I decided that I wanted to come in and change the way my table of contents looked, that's also easy to do. But so we see the difference, I'm going to add in one more section. So I'm going to come down to this picture, and I actually have a caption here, but I'm going to put this at the top of it. So we'll cut that out, and we'll just put it at the top of the image. And maybe we want those image titles to show up. So let's just make this heading 2 for right now. And then we can go back again to our table of contents, click Update, and I'm going to say update the entire table because we know we added a change. And now you can see it pulled in that second heading. So out of the box, there's not a whole lot that I have to do to this. This table of contents would work well for just about any document. But if I wanted to continue applying styles, I can still do that. So the way this works is heading 1 is actually level 1 in my table of contents, and it's tied to the style for TOC 1. And you saw that if you click here on the style ribbon, you can see that it is set here, and I can simply right-click and modify this. And maybe I want those first headings to be bolded. I can come in and change that style. Now I changed the style for TOC1. I can say update the table again. And it should, if it's working correctly, bold that. Let me make sure I save that. So it does look like that bolded. and we want to click automatically update, and let's update our table again. Now, of course, the demo gods are not going to be with me today, so we can just come in directly if we want to edit it manually, and you can select that text, and I can bold that, and now it's bolding the other ones but not the first one, so it's just being a little funky today. But again, if I wanted to come in and say, I'm not sure what's going on there, let's remove it, I can come back to reference, and I can simply add it in again, and it's going to generate that. So again, if you feel like you're starting to mess with your table of contents a little bit and it's being funky, it's really easy to remove it and just re-add it. So you can see in just a few minutes, I've added that table of contents and we're good. We've changed the heading, we've updated it. We really didn't get too detailed into the styles. It let us know like, hey, there's nothing for me to pull automatically from. I went in and I added a few styles and that's it. And now here's the cool part, is these table of contents links, you can see it says click and control to follow the link. I can jump directly to that page because they're all hyperlinks. Now that I jumped directly to this section heading, now that little back bar is active. So I can go back and forth to the table of contents by using those. Those are hyperlinks. And you can change that settings for follow, control to click. It's in your options. So if I came in here into my options menu, there's a setting in here, I believe it's on display or advanced, where you just turn off the control to click and you just turn that off. Let me go back, and now I can just click on those directly. And again, those back buttons come in real handy when you have a table of contents. So this is the basic way to insert a table of contents. We're going to go back to our presentation. Now there are a couple other ways that we're going to create table of contents. You saw the automated tool. It works really well. Even when it went a little buggy on me when I updated that style to be bolded, I removed the table of contents, I added it back, and it was fine. So that's always a great option. But sometimes people need a little bit more control on that. Now this depends very much on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do. But if you have a document where you want that chapter heading, but you also want a summary in the table of contents, you just don't want it to show up in the body. That's one use case. Maybe you don't want page numbers on all of those TOC items. You know, you want the chapter page number, but then on that summary that you're going to add, you don't want that to show a page number because it's not really in the document. Or the other case is you have a very, very large document and you want multiple table of contents throughout that whole document. The example that I give, which is a real-world example, when I worked for a law firm and our customer was a large water district, we were responsible for their rules and regulations. And at one point when I was managing that document control, it was over 500 pages. We had 10 different chapters of rules. And you know, that table of contents itself was about 8-9 pages long. One way we decided to do that differently is just have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then when you went to chapter 1 had a table of contents just for that chapter. So it broke it up a little bit and it made it easier for the users to consume. On that main table of contents, they could jump directly to chapter 9, and then within chapter 9 they could go to the rules if they wanted. So there are some use cases for that. You want to keep your document as simple as possible. You wouldn't put multiple table of contents on a short document like ours, that's 10 pages, but there's definitely cases out there for it. Now, this is still available through the ribbon. There's still a menu button there, but you may have to do a little bit more input on your end. And thing to watch out for, when you're using TC fields, this is hidden text within the document. But if you send that source document to somebody, if you send the actual Word document, not a PDF, they're able to read that. So you have to be mindful of including sensitive information in there. Now, I don't imagine anybody's going to go into Word and type in a summary that includes a Social Security number or some private confidential customer info. So that's very, very much an edge case. But again, you just have to be aware that just because it's a hidden field doesn't mean people can't see it. If you're giving them the Word document, they're going to be able to dig into it. So I'm going to show you really quickly in our same document what I mean by TC fields. So we have our document here. We've got our main table of contents. We've got our chapter headings. I'm actually going to go in and change a couple of these chapter headings. And this is just a dummy document, so you see a lot of just random text in here. I'm going to go to this last one. This is just a small one, but I did have did have some really quick pictures in there. And I'm going to update my table of contents again. So I updated these titles, but maybe now I want to put a little summary. You know, I have working well in the office. Somebody who looks at that may have no idea what that means. Now what we want to do is we're not going to come in and add a second heading here. If we wanted to say, you know, we're talking about working well in the office. You know, keeping yourself healthy in the office can take some work. We may not want this text in the actual document. We just may want to put that summary in the table of contents so people know what we're talking about. Now, this may be fine to put in the document, but in my case, I don't want to include it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor right here, and I'm going to come up to my Insert menu, and then we're going to go over to Quick Parts. You can see in Quick Parts I have a field option. Now under Field, there's a ton of different fields in Word. I'm going to scroll down, and the particular one that I want is TC. Now you'll also see TOC, and you'll see this is to create a table of contents. That's not what we want to do. We want to do a table of contents entry, so table entry. Now the text entry is where you're going to put in that text that you want to appear. And then you can see for field options, I really don't want the page number on this, so I'm going to suppress the page number. Now for outline level, remember when I was talking about you're going to use heading 1, heading 2 for your table of contents. Those are tied to TOC, TOC 1 or 2, the corresponding styles. So for this one, I'm just going to come in and type 8. Now, if I had a document that had headings 1 through 9, I may have to pick something, you know, and cut that last one. In our case, we're only showing 2 headings right now, so I know 8 is not going to be used. So I'm going to click OK. And since I have my hidden characters turned on, you can see that my field entry is right here. Now again, if I turn that hidden characters off, it disappeared, and this is what a normal person is going to view. And this is why I say if you're not used to working with those hidden characters, you may want to just, you know, try to see if you can get used to it when you're working with table of contents, only if you're doing these advanced features. So you can see I have the brackets there, and if I type over here, we have our field code, TC. This is a table of contents entry. Between our quotation marks, we have our text, and this backslash is called a switch. And then we can tell it's level 8 and N, no page numbers, and that's all it's doing. So I'm going to toggle that off so it's a little bit easier for people to read. I'm going to go back to my home page, click my next page, and go to my table of contents, and I'm going to update my table, and I'm going to say update the entire table. Now you'll notice that nothing happened there, and the reason why is I didn't tell this automatic table of contents to use those TC fields. So the automatic ones are going to pull from the styles, and that's it. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to remove my table. And we know that's not a big deal because I'm not deleting those items. I'm just removing the link to them. I'm going to go back to reference, back to the table of contents item field, and now we're going to go down to custom table of contents. And when we say custom, we're saying custom, but it's still going to have the same functions, but we have some options here. So you can see we've got a print preview of it. It's showing the page numbers. It's right aligning them. We want to show how many levels from a template. But now I'm going to click Options, and you can pick which styles you're choosing from. So all of these different styles I can pick from. But here's the key, table entry fields. I want to toggle that on. I'm going to click OK again, and then now I have that little summary within my table of contents. And if I click on this, it's still going to take me to that section, but I've got that little summary text in there. Now, you'll notice that when I click on this, I don't have that easy button here to update or remove. It's still really easy to update this table. I would just say update field, and I'm going to get the same prompt. So if I came back and, you know, let's go back to our using an input device in the workplace, and I had another little caption here. I'm going to add in this heading. And we know we were using heading 2 for these, so we'll make that heading 2. And then again, I'm going to go back to my table of contents. Now you can tell when I click within it, it's highlighting it gray because it is a field. And I'm going to right-click on it since I don't have that little pop-up from the automated one, and just click Update Field, Update Entire Table, and you can see I added in another one there. So even if you're using those TC fields and doing some customization, it's still really easy to update your table of contents. Now, I'm going to turn on hidden characters. If I wanted to delete this and just start over, it's really easy. You can see the minute that I clicked in it, but if I highlight it, it highlights the whole thing. I would just use the delete button, and I can always come back in. And if I wanted to come in and do another custom table of contents, I could. Again, I can click my options, use table entry fields. I could add in other items, but this is why you want to use those built-in headings. And see, it goes through 9. That's the limit that what you can have. But that gives you a lot of room. If you've got more than 10 different headings in a table of contents, you probably want to look at building out multiple table of contents throughout the document. So again, this is 2 different ways that you can create that table of contents. You can see how easy it is, even if you want to do that custom text. Now, if I wanted to modify this text, I can come in and just change, maybe I want that to be in italics because it's going to be a summary. I can change that directly, but it can also be done in the style as well. So I can come up here and, modify the style the same way that we did for TOC1. That's, again, one of the ways to do that. Now, one thing that you can do if you wanted to know really, really deeply what those field codes are, you can toggle your fields on and off by using a toggle button, and we're going to get into that with our next slide. So updating and modifying table of contents. I've already shown you multiple times the automatic ones, they're super easy to update. You change a heading, you go back, you click update. If you're using a custom one, you're picking which styles are your table of contents headings. You right click, you click update field, you say update the table. Now the one thing about the TC fields, so if you're responsible for a really large document like the rules document that I mentioned earlier, 500 pages, used a lot of TC fields, used multiple table of contents, a new person who inherits that document may have no idea how that was generated. They may click in the table of contents and see that it's highlighted and they know it's a field, but they have no idea how that stuff got there. So I really like to add a note into the file properties in the comment section saying, the table of contents uses a custom table of contents with TC fields or table entry fields, just to give them a hint. That's not anything that if somebody saw the Word document, they're going to know, oh my gosh, they have super secret fields in there. It's just pointing them in the right direction. And those file properties, people may not know to look at it, but if they're really digging and hunting, that's one thing you can point them to if you're handing something over. If you inherit a document and there's nothing in the comments field, you can toggle those fields on and off by using your keyboard. So I'm going to show you that really quickly before we wrap up. So again, this one, if I came in and I had no idea how this document was, created, and I came in and let's add one more, caption title, and I'm not going to add this to the top. I'm just going to say heading 3 for this one, and I'm going to go back to the table of contents, and we'll go to the cover page. And I know this is a field because I'm right-clicking and I'm updating it, and I'm saying entire table, and I see some things are changing. But this one here is really throwing me off because I don't know where it's at in the document. Now, if I turn off my hidden characters and I say keeping yourself, it's going to find it, but it's not going to find it anywhere else. Now, if I turn on hidden characters and I look for it again, it's still not going to find it because, again, it's a field and we're not searching on fields. Now, I can come in here and I can do the find and replace and search more, and then I can do special and I can say field and I can find next, but you're going to be really hard pressed to discover these items. A really easy way to do it, turn on hidden characters. We know that I can click on this. This is a hyperlink, and then I see it. But if a person just isn't used to hidden characters, go over to the File menu. We have file properties here. You can see add comments, and just put in a comment. So it's just one more breadcrumb trail to give somebody to try and figure out what's going on with the document. Now the other way, going back to our table of contents, again, you can right-click and you can see Edit Field and Toggle Field Codes. So if I toggle the field codes, that right there tells me it's a TOC, it's a table entry field. It gives me a random number. You can also do that by your keyboard command, as you saw on my previous screen. So multiple ways that they can figure out that you're using TC fields. Now there's only certain use cases where you would want to do that. So that's Alt-FN is what I clicked on my keyboard. just Alt-FN, and this is the whole table of contents. So this is creating the table of contents. I have headings 1 through 3. I know that I have some switches in there, but again, really edge use case when you would have to do that. TC fields are the same. If you want to add a section, if you want to do multiple table of contents within one document. So remember all those things. Always right-click, look and see what the menu says. But multiple ways you can work with table of contents. Now, some things to consider as we're wrapping up. Again, I can't stress enough that table of contents help you organize your documents and just make them easier to consume. They help you combine multiple documents into one with TC fields. If you have several really large documents and they're on the same thing, maybe they're HR employee handbooks and you've got different ones, and the only reason you have different documents is because they all have a table of contents. You could put that in one document, have a table of contents for each section essentially, and then have one less thing to give out. Some of the cons. This is very much tied into styles. Now when I use the automatic table of contents field, really easy. You click heading 1 and you're done. The TC fields, if you're getting into that, you may need a little bit of review over how to do that, and there's some great Microsoft videos out there as well. The big caveat, if you're using the automatic tools or if you're using TC fields, somebody still has to go in and update. Whether that's right-clicking and updating or just refreshing that automatic field, they still have to update. So far, Word hasn't been so advanced of like, hey, you just changed the section heading. I'm also going to change that for you in table of contents. And again, the alternatives, manually typing it in using a third-party tool, none of those are really great. So I would say just avoid those if you can. Now, again, if you're wondering how you can get your employees to start using these really advanced features and anything else within Office 365, Planet Technologies does have a service called Evolve 365. This is a subscription-based help desk as a service for Microsoft Office 365, and its sole purpose is to help end-user adoption and evolve your organization to be more productive. We have more than 28,000 on-demand self-help videos across Office 365, all Office applications from 2010 to 2016, SharePoint, and even Windows 7, 8, and 10. So these are short training videos. If you wanted to know how to do table entry fields, you can come in and watch some short training videos on that. If you want to know how to build an automatic table of contents, you can come in and watch videos on that. We also have additional add-ons for live support and vision and planning sessions if you need that additional assistance. Every subscription comes with a dedicated Office 365 trusted advisor like myself. I'll help you through the onboarding process, hone in on what videos may be better for your users, and advise you along the way of what changes are coming in Office 365 so you're always staying informed. We do have a free trial site out there if you want to get an idea of what the content looks like. This is just a screenshot of the trial. Most of our videos are 30 seconds to 2 minutes long, so they're nothing that a user is going to have to sit through and watch for hours. If you want to try out the free trial, you can go to freetrial.o365support.com. You can find out more about Evolve 365 on the main website at o365support.com. And if you have any questions you'd like us to answer or would love a free demo, you can email us at info@o365support.com. Now we're going to continue on next week, wrapping up our October series, talking about section breaks, headers, and footers. So we're going to take the same document that we worked on today, show you how to include a cover page, show you how to add section breaks so you can have different page numbers. Maybe you'll have, page lowercase Roman numerals for the table of contents and different page numbers for different sections. And then we're going to send out our November series next week. So you can always look for that on our website at go-planet.com/events. And of course, you can always find our recordings on our Planet Technologies YouTube channel as well. Now, I don't see too many questions. I was looking through the polls and haven't seen any really pop up yet. So we're over time right now, and I'm going to go ahead and close out the chat window. I do appreciate the thanks that one of our users sent in. But if you ever have a topic or another question, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn or send me an email. And if you ever have a topic that you'd like us to cover, I'm open to those ideas as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and I hope to see you online next week.